In this lesson, we're going to be learning about the order of operations and the mnemonic BIDMAS. Our learning objectives are going to be 1. To know the convention for determining order of operations in an expression involving more than one operation, and 2. To be able to evaluate arithmetic expressions involving more than one operation. Now, the first question I want to address is, does the order even matter? So what I have here are two identical expressions, 2 plus 5 times 4, 2 plus 5 times 4. But hopefully you can see that there'd be two ways of approaching this. I could either do my addition first, then the multiplication, or I could do the multiplication first, then the addition. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the order of operations differently and see if we get a different or the same answer. So for the first one over here, what we're going to do is the addition first, then the multiplication. And then for the one over here, we're going to do the multiplication first, then the addition. So let's first do the addition first, then the multiplication. So addition would be first doing 2 plus 5, which will be 7, and then I'm going to times the 4, and 7 times 4 is 28. Let's now do multiplication, then addition. So that would mean I'm going to do 5 times 4 first. 5 times 4, that is 20. I've still got this 2 plus here, 2 plus, and 2 plus 20, that is 22. Now, hopefully you can see I've gotten two different answers. Now, that should very much concern us, because now we need to answer the question, well, which one is correct? And that's going to come down to, what is my correct order of operations? So what is the correct order of operations? And this is where we use BIDMAS. So BIDMAS is going to tell me what the correct order of operations is. So let's walk through this mnemonic together. So first is B, which stands for my brackets. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is calculate any operations inside brackets. The second thing I'm going to do is I, which stands for indices. I'm going to calculate any indices working from left to right. Now, indices is just another way of saying my powers or exponents. Next, I'm going to do my division and multiplication. So calculate any divisions and multiplications working from left to right. Now, hopefully you can see that I put the D and M next to each other. I didn't put them on top of each other. I put them next to each other. And the reason for that is because one isn't more powerful than the other. In other words, one doesn't take priority over the other. I don't have to do my multiplication first. I don't have to do my division first. That's why I've put them next to each other. But if I was given an expression which both has division and multiplication, I'm going to follow this principle. I'm going to go from left to right. Now that's going to be very important, as we see when we do an example question together. Then the final thing that we do is my addition and subtraction. So calculate any additions and subtractions, and the same principle is going to hold true for my addition and subtraction as it did for my division and multiplication, which is working from left to right. Let's now answer a question together using BIDMAS. So the first thing that I'm going to do is B, my brackets. So I come over here and I see my brackets, which are 8 plus 8. And I know that 8 plus 8 is 16. So then I'm just going to copy everything else down. 2 times 3 plus divided by 4 minus 2 squared minus 1. What's the next thing I'm going to do? The next thing I'm going to do is I, which is my indices, so my powers, exponents. So here it is here, 2 squared. 2 squared, that is 4. So now I'm just going to copy down everything else that I see. Divided by 4, then it's 2 times 3 plus 16. So what I did there is I just did my indices and brought that down and just copied everything else down the same. What's the next thing I do? The next thing I do is my division and my multiplication. And let's remember our very important principle, which is working from left to right if we have both multiplication and division in my question. So as you can see here, I have a multiplication and I have a division. So one doesn't take priority over the other. So when I'm in a situation where I have both a multiplication and a division, I'm simply going to work left to right. So let's do that now. I'm going to go 2 times 3, that's 6, plus 16 divided by 4, well that's 4, and let me just copy down the rest. There we go. Perfect. The final thing I'm going to do is my addition and subtraction, and I'm going to follow that same principle of working from left to right if I have both addition and subtraction in my expression, and I certainly do here. I have my plus and I have some minuses as well. So I'm going to work left to right. I'm not going to do one before the other. I'm just going to work left to right. So I'm going to grab my pen. 6 plus 4, that's 10. Then I'm going to go negative 4 minus 1, that's negative 5. So now I just have to go 10 minus 5, which is 5. And that right there is going to be my answer. So I hope you copied that down with me, because what I'm going to get you to do now is pause the video and solve this question for yourself. Good luck. So how did you go with this problem? Let's now give it a go together. So the very first thing I'm going to do is my brackets. So 4 plus 6, that's going to be 10. Then I'm going to write down everything else around it. So just copying it down, 18 minus 2 times. Perfect. The next thing I'm going to do are my indices. Now, I don't have any indices here. I don't have any powers or exponents here. So that means I can just skip that one and go on to my division and multiplication. Now, as you can see, I have both a multiplication and a division. And remember the rule, when I have both of them, I'm simply going to work from left to right. So I'm going to grab my pen and go 2 times 10. Well, that is 20. I'm going to copy everything down around it. And now I'm going to do my division. 20 divided by 5, that's 4. And then I'm going to copy this around it. So that means to answer my question now, I just need to go 18 minus 4, which is going to be 14. Hopefully you got that answer. If you didn't, don't worry. Just make sure that you're taking these notes along with me. I now want you to try this again for yourself. So pause the video and solve this question for yourself now. So how did you go with this question? Well, let's now go through it together. So the very first thing I'm going to do are my brackets. So I come over here and I see my brackets. Now it's interesting because inside my brackets, I have both a division and an addition. So which one am I going to do first? Well, it's a bit like applying BIDMAS to inside my brackets now. I know that my division takes priority over my subtraction. So that means I'm going to do 72 divided by 12 first. So what is 72 divided by 12? And I know my answer to that is 6. So I'm going to get 6 plus 1. I'm going to close up my brackets, minus 1, 3 times. So notice that I still have my brackets there. I haven't done everything inside of it yet. So now I'm going to go 6 plus 1, which is 7. And then copy down everything around it. And now I have both a multiplication and a subtraction. I know my multiplication takes priority. I do this one first. 3 times 7, that's 21. And then I have my minus 1 here, which means my answer is going to be 20, because 21 minus 1 is 20. So hopefully you got that one correct. If not, just make sure you're taking down all these notes with me. Let's now go on to another question I want you to answer, but this time it's a spot the mistake question. So here are the questions, and here is someone's working, and I want you to see if you can spot where they've made the mistake. So I want you to circle where they've made the mistake, and then also show me the correct working beside it. So pause the video and give it a go. So how did you go with this question? Let's now analyze them together. So I have 25 minus 9 times 2 plus 3. So I know according to BIDMAS, I'm going to do my multiplication first. I'm going to go 9 times 2, which is going to be 18. So I'm going to end up with 25 minus 18 plus 3. And as you can see here, that's the first line of working they've given me. So that is correct. Let's now go into the second line. So let's first look at what we should do. We have 25 minus 18 plus 3. Now I know when I have both a subtraction and a addition, neither of them takes priority over the other. I'm simply going to do them left to right. So I'm going to go 25 minus 18, which is going to be 7. And then I'm going to plus 3 to it. But as you see down here, that's not what they've done. This is incorrect. So what have they done wrong here? Well, what they've done is they've done their addition first. They've gone 18 plus 3 is 21, and then gone 25 minus 21. But that isn't correct. You shouldn't do your addition first if you have both subtraction and addition. You need to follow that principle of working from left to right. So let's now write down what they should have done. So they should have done from this step, what they should have done is 25 minus 18, that's 7, then plus 3. Then they should have gone 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. So the correct answer to this question is 10, not 4. So that's also incorrect. How did you go with answering this question now? So we have 10 divided by 5 times 2. Well, I know when I have both division and multiplication, neither of them takes priority. I simply do them left to right, which means I'm going to get 10 divided by 5, which is 2, then go 2 times 20. But as you can see here, they've written 10 divided by 100. So what they've done is they've gone 5 times 20, which is 100. So they've done their multiplication first, which we know is incorrect, which means their final answer is incorrect. What they should have done is simply worked left to right. So 10 divided by 5, that's 2. Then they're going to times 20, and 2 times 20, that is equal to 40. So both of these erroneous workings are examples of people who have said, I'm going to do addition first before the subtraction, or I'm going to do multiplication first before the division. Neither of these people have followed the principle of working left to right when you have both addition and subtraction, or multiplication and division. So that's a very important point you should take note of. Let's now move on to deal with some worded problems. So here what we're going to be doing is using order of operations in worded problems. And here's the question before us. Find the difference between 76 and 43. Triple this result, and finally subtract the quotient of 35 and 7. So it's quite a big question, but let's just work it through slowly together. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is find the difference between 76 and 43. Now, in my experience, when students see the word difference in maths, it confuses them. So let me just show you a little example of what the word difference means. So it's unrelated to this question. Let's imagine you're 10 years old and you have a little brother who is 7 years old. And someone comes up to you and says, what is the difference in age? What is the difference in age with your brother? Well, you know that the difference is 3 years. So what you've done is gone 10 minus 7 equals 3. So hopefully that allows you to appreciate that the word difference just means subtraction. It really isn't that complicated, but I feel that some people really get confused by it. So let's now get rid of all of this that's unrelated to the question before us. All right, so knowing now that difference simply just means subtraction, when it's asking for the difference between 76 and 43, what we're going to do is 76 minus 43. Perfect. Let's now move on. We now need to triple this result. Now, when we see the word triple, that means times it by 3. So we're going to go 76 minus 43 and then triple the result of that. Now, let me show you where I think most people would make a mistake with this type of question. They would get the first bit correct, and then they would say, well, now I need to triple that result, so I'm going to times it by 3. Now, is this correct? It is not correct. Why isn't this correct? Because according to my order of operations, according to BIDMAS, I do my multiplication first, then I do my subtraction. So what this is telling me is first do 43 times 3, which would be 129, and then go 76 minus 129. But notice that isn't what my question is asking. My question is saying, hey, first do the subtraction of 76, subtract 43, and then triple that result. So I need to change this expression in a way that tells the person who's doing it to first do the 76 minus 43 first. So how am I going to change it? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remember my order of operations, my BIDMAS, and I'm going to remember brackets. I do my brackets first. So if I put brackets around this, that's saying, hey, do what's inside the brackets first, and then times that by 3. So first I'm going to find the difference of 76 and 43, and then I'm going to triple the result. Perfect. Let's now move on, which is, and finally, subtract the quotient of 35 and 7. So I'm going to subtract the quotient of 35 and 7. Now the word quotient is another fancy word. All it means is the result of a division. So what is 35 divided by 7? That's all it means. The quotient of 35 and 7 is just 35 divided by 7. So I'm going to subtract the quotient of 35 and 7. So I'm going to subtract 35 divided by 7. Now that is totally correct. According to my order of operations, remember, I'm going to do my division first before the subtraction. So I don't need brackets around here because according to my order of operations, according to BIDMAS, I'm going to do that division first before I do the subtraction. Now, it wouldn't be wrong if you did put brackets around this, but they're unnecessary. You don't need them. I actually find it nicer to put the brackets around. I think it's aesthetically pleasing, but you don't need them. So let me get rid of them. Go away. All right, let's see if I can get the answer based on what I've written here. So again, I'm going to be using my order of operations. So the very first thing I'm going to do is 76 minus 43, which is going to be 33. Then I'm going to times that by 3, then minus 35, then divide that by 7. So now I need to answer this. Remember that when I have both a multiplication and a division, I simply work left to right. So that's going to be 33 times 3, that is 99. Then I'm going to subtract 35 divided by 7, or 35 divided by 7 is simply 5. So now I simply need to do 99 minus 5, which is going to be 94. And that is my answer. Now, before we move on, I want to talk about this. Now, while this is technically correct, I would say that this is pretty ugly. Now, when you go on further in maths, as you progress through secondary school, you're going to learn a prettier way to write this. And I want to show you now what a prettier way to write it is. But just so you know, if you did write this on a test, it would get a tick. This is correct. But I wouldn't be happy giving it a tick because it's just so ugly. So how could we make this prettier? So the very first thing we're going to do is we're not going to put times by 3 here. Rather, what we're going to do is put that 3 here. Now, when I have 3 next to a brackets, there's an invisible multiplication sign there. I could put it in, but I don't need to. And we find it prettier to do it this way. It's just more efficient as well. So this is a nicer way of going 3 times the difference of 76 minus 43. So that's just a prettier way to do it. And then, of course, I would just come over here and I would move this closer here. And as I said before, it wouldn't be wrong if you put, let me just get rid of that. Whoops. It wouldn't be wrong if you put a brackets around this right here. It wouldn't be wrong if you put brackets around that. It's unnecessary, but it wouldn't be wrong for you to do it. And I actually think it's quite prettier with them around it. I think this is a far more nicer way for you to write it. But again, those brackets are unnecessary because we know according to my order of operation, I'm going to do this division first. So hopefully this question made sense to you. Hopefully you wrote everything down. I now want you to try a question similar to it for yourself. So again, I want you to pause the video and using your order of operations, I want you to find the product of 9 and 12. So the product from 9 and 12 is subtracted from double the product of 10 and 15. So pause the video and give it a go. So how did you go with this question? So let's now do it together. The product of 9 and 12 is subtracted from double the product of 10 and 15. Now this is a little bit of a tricky question and it's a question that's really prone to error. So what I want to actually show you is the wrong way that most students will do it. So let me repeat, I'm going to now show you the wrong way that I feel most students would do this question. So let me get out a red pen because this is going to be wrong. So the reason why most people would answer this question incorrectly is because they're simply going to follow it from left to right. They're just going to go that way. They're just going to read the question and just work from left to right and just really do it blindly. They're going to go, all right, I see the product of 9 and 12. So that's 9 times 12. Next, I see the word subtract. So I'm going to put a subtraction sign in. Then I see the word double. So I'm going to go 2 times. And then finally, I see the word product of 10 and 15. So that's going to be 10 times 15. Now that is incorrect. That is not the correct answer. And the reason why this person has got it incorrect is firstly, they haven't taken into consideration our order of operations, but also they're just working left to right. They're not really reading what the question is saying. So let me now just rub out these markings. Let me rub them out. I want to leave this here as a warning, but now I want to get a green pen and show you the correct way to answer this question. So let's now really read it and not just go left to right. So the product of 9 and 12 is subtracted from double the product of 10 and 15. All right, this right here is really important. So the product of 9 and 12 is subtracted from double the product of 10 and 15. So that means 9 times 12 is going to be subtracted from double the product of 10 and 15. So that means I'm first going to do this side of the question. So I'm going to go double the product of 10 and 15. Now when it says the product of 10 and 15, that means 10 times 15. And now I'm going to double this. So I'm going to actually put brackets around it and put a 2 on the outside. So notice now it's the product of 10 and 15, and then I'm doubling that. Notice on this side how this is incorrect. Now, it might be in the same order. Look, 2, then 10, then 15. 2, then 10, then 15. But without the brackets here, it makes a huge difference. And the reason for that is because when we have multiple multiplications, you simply just do it left to right. So this would be 2 times 10 is 20 times 15. But that's not what we want. We want to go 10 times 15, then times that by 2. And this is the correct way to do it. And I've done that through the brackets. Next, from this, I'm subtracting 9 times 12. So now I can put in my subtraction and then the product of 9 times 12. Now I don't need to put brackets around this. Those brackets would be unnecessary because I know according to my order of operations, I first do my multiplication and then my subtraction. So although you could put them in, they're just unnecessary. So I'm not going to do it. Now this is your correct answer. So let's now get our answer itself. Let's get the correct answer. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do, BIDMAS, I'm going to do the brackets. 10 times 15, that's 150. So then I'm going to go 2 times that answer minus 9 times 12. Now we know that when we have multiple multiplications, I'm simply going to work left to right. So 2 times 150, that is 300. Then I'm going to subtract 9 times 12. 9 times 12 is 108. And I know that 300 subtract 108, my answer is going to be 192. That is going to be my final answer. So I'd be very impressed if you got that correct. And if not, just make sure you get down the correct notes. Please, please, please don't write this down. Whoops, that is incorrect. Oh, my computer is freaking out on me. That is incorrect. Hopefully you all got that down. So let's now review what we've learned in this lesson. What have we learned in this lesson? Well, today we learned all about order of operations and our mnemonic BIDMAS. Our learning objectives were 1, to know the convention for determining order of operations in an expression involving more than one operations. We certainly did that. We learned all about the mnemonic BIDMAS. Second, to be able to evaluate arithmetic expressions involving more than one operation. And we did that as well. We went through lots of examples, so hopefully you're confident with this. Hopefully this lesson was helpful to you. Now you should go on to the homework allocated for this topic. Good luck.